Welcome back to the Music City Drive-In. I'm Eric, and I am here with a team of people. Two of the co-creators, Enrico.
There you go. You got it, Enrico.
Okay, Enrico Natale and Carl Reid. And Enrico is also a star of a series called Grounded from Redbird Entertainment. I'm also here with stars Nick Cardiff, Victor Salvatore, and Kaley, I'm so sorry, last name.
McCormack.
Yes, McCormack.
With an A.
Yes. Enrico, Carl, can you tell me what this is about?
Sure. Well, we had a brainstorm, basically quarantine hit, in 2019. And then, we were stuck as a production company, didn't really have much to do. So we figured, well, let's just do whatever we want. And what we wanted to do was a superhero show. Enrico had a brilliant idea to kind of ground a superhero who couldn't go out, couldn't experience all the adulation and heroics that he's used to. And so he's kind of stuck doing nothing around the house, and he's kind of forced to confront himself. Then I kind of had the idea of what if he's a therapist to all these other superheroes who are similarly stuck, and what kind of adventures would they get forced to explore, and we took it from there.
This was an undertaking, to say the least. Like Carl said, it was during quarantine, so this was like during the height of quarantine as well. So when everyone was taking it very seriously and no one was going anywhere and we couldn't see anyone, and you'd go out into the streets of LA and there'd be 0 cars on the street. And so the crew was my father, my wife, and my 2-year-old, who was very helpful. And that was it, and then so it was like, all right, we're gonna make 8 episodes of television like this, and we're gonna make it happen.
Initially, when I started watching this, I wasn't sure how it felt. It felt very pilot episode and whatnot, but the way that this picks up in a personal way for the lead character, and the amount that you seem to have put into it personally, I just really appreciated it. In fact, I was kind of working on something earlier.
Oh, wow. I think that's our first fan art officially.
Yeah, I may have that done by the time I'm able to put this out.
I love it, man. That's great.
As I was saying here a bit ago, Kaley plays one of your clients, one of Paradigm's clients, his alter ego. And you have Professor Payne, Nick Cardiff here, which I'll get to in a second. And I believe I have am I allowed to say your Aquaman Nautilus like here? Yes. Is that yes? Now, all of you, fantastic performances. I just want to say I appreciate all of your input real quick. And I'm just curious to hear a little bit from each of you on what this meant to you going through quarantine.
I think this was one of the first times I played more of a straight character. I feel like I usually play like the bigger characters. And so there was a part of me that was super jealous that I wasn't like these big, ridiculous personas. But that being said, I think it felt really true to being home alone by myself and just like talking it out and really just being myself. So I think it's probably the truest performance I've ever done because it is me. It like Lydia, I feel like is me. And funny enough, after we did Grounded, I ended up getting a therapist and I had to do it virtually. And so all of it was done in my apartment, just like that. So it was very funny that like the parallels that I saw after doing it, how I did become so connected to my therapist virtually. And when I had to meet him in person, it was such a big deal to me. And I was super nervous. And it was this whole other element. And so I keep thinking like, what happens if Lydia meets him in person? Like, what is that going to look like? And what are the nerves going to be? And it's almost like they don't want to meet in person because there's like, what if they lose all this juice that they get through the screen? Because like the screen is another character. Like the Zoom, this
100%.
Whatever fourth wall is like in our lives, it's another character in our life. And when you take that away, the truth is I can never look you in the eye. You know what I mean? When we're on here.
This is a camera. This is you.
Yeah. I think as far as like the shooting experience went for me, I kept putting it off. Rico would be like, are you ready? Like, are your tapes in? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I kept putting it off because I didn't know that it would be as difficult as it was. I thought it would be a little easier than that. Sorry for the scratching in the background. My boyfriend's son has a bearded dragon and he's trying to get out of his cage. It's
Classic.
very embarrassing. So if you're like, oh, does she have like somebody in the closet? I do. It's a dragon.
That's what we were all texting that to each other just
Like,
now.
what is going on at Kaley?
That's
I
okay.
think the hardest thing for me was like forgetting that I needed to pause for reactions and I needed to pause to like listen, because you do it completely alone. We weren't on FaceTime acting together.
I was gonna ask what people felt like with it acting alone. I'm curious to hear our other performers talk about that when we get there. Yeah.
I ended up kind of loving it. I think it was super cool, but it was definitely difficult, and being your own lighting and being your own sound and being your own continuity. Like, I have such an appreciation, like Carl has said, like for all the other departments. I would like make notes and then put my pen down on the counter and then go to film again. And I was like, oh, that was a great take. And I'd be like, motherfucker, like my pen shouldn't be in the scene. So then like all these takes that I thought were great couldn't be used because my continuity was shite. So there was a lot of stuff like that you didn't think would frustrate you and like get in your head, and ultimately kind of like also you could use that, that brought out the frustration in a lot of ways in some of the scenes.
For sure. How about Mr. Cardiff, Nick?
Yeah, the process for this was very unique. I shot everything that I'm in one evening. And so it was, my wife was here, and so I was using her as kind of a reader, but I set up the camera and the tripod, took pictures on my phone of what the shot looked like, sent it to Rico and Carl. It was like, how's this framing? And they're like, great. I'm like, all right, here we go. And so they were, still directing from afar, but it was very cool experience, because normally when you do a take, you do the take of the scene and all that. This was quite literally sentence by sentence, line by line. I would do 3 or 4 takes of the line in different ways, and then I would move on to the next line. And then I would do one safety take where I would do the whole scene, just so there was some sort of continuity in the performance that they could at least pull from if his line didn't match with my line. So there was a lot of thought that went into it, but I don't know, I did it all. Once I started, I was like, I can't get out of this mind space. It was, for me, for a comedy like this, again, for me, I won't speak for everybody, but I had to approach it like a cartoon. And I had to dive into it and go, who am I pulling from? I'm not pulling from, so I'm basically Paradigm's Joker, or Lex Luthor. But I can't look at Gene Hackman or Heath Ledger or anything like that. I have to look at animated Batman, the 90s Joker. I have to look at Jafar from Aladdin. All these different crazy, larger than life cartoons, and then put that on top of this character who really just has a revenge story, and then find the actual reason why I'm doing the things I'm doing and my objective, and have some sort of humanity in it, so it's not just a Saturday Night Live sketch, or whatever it is. And so that's how I kind of came across to it. But once I nailed those two kind of characters that I wanted to pull from, and I found the reason why, I couldn't stop shooting. And it was like 11 o'clock at night, and my wife's like, okay, like I was in our second room, our small room, and I've got the camera up in the corner, and I'm standing in front of the camera doing all this. She's like, are you still going? I'm like, I got 2 more episodes. I'm just gonna do it now.
Mr. Salvatore, Victor, how was it for you?
I had to do a lot of research myself. To call someone and want to be loved, like I just never experienced that before. So to call someone while inebriated, like I've never experienced that either. And so I dove in with a lot of research, and during quarantine it was there was a lot to do. It just took its own life from there. I got to say one thing about Nick is that I saw him at the read through. I watched his performance, and I'm like, wow, man, this guy's got this evil thing down. And then I met him in person, and I was like, who are you? Jeez, he's like the chillest dude. And
wanted to ask a little bit about from the behind the scenes with Carl and Enrico, the costume design, like designing the comic book elements of this, just being stuck at home. I mean, there is a ton of the background. I encourage people to watch the show to learn a lot about the VFX work and what, a huge sort of help that was. But I was wondering if y'all could speak to bringing the comic book elements into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can start with Victor Speedo. Yeah. No, I mean, from I guess the whole point of the show is to kind of take the tropes that you're used to, and then find a way to kind of deconstruct them or poke fun at them, and make sure it's also still satisfying though for people who are still used to these like amazing $100 million budget Marvel movies and shows and things like that. So we had to pepper in where we were going to use special effects pretty strategically, make sure that they made sense for the story. For a character though like Victor, in all seriousness, he was actually one of the few that I was able to work with and direct, because we were using all this green screen, just to kind of play around and get the framing right for every shot that he's in, which is basically an underwater shot. So it's a VFX for every single shot that Victor's in. And so that was one where we knew, okay, you're going to get tired of seeing certain things in the dimension of the screen. How can we make it visually appealing? How can we use these powers to their greatest extent? And his was one where, thanks to our co-executive producer, or executive producer who's with us, Mark Renton, he was able to, he's worked on Minority Report, Pacific Rim, all these amazing, huge, and he just donated as much time and energy as we did to cranking out, over 800 visual effects. So,
we can't praise him enough for the work he did. And
I've got to say one thing though about my scene. I know there's a lot of visual effects, but my body, that's actually all me.
That's
100%. I can verify that.
They did not CGI any of that.
I was gonna ask Enrico and Carl, really anyone who would like to answer this. What are you hoping that audiences, potential fans will take away from watching this, especially now that we're so removed from 2020? What are you hoping for? Just in terms of telling a story,
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's connecting with the characters. And it's because, I mean, even without the special effects and even without the quarantine trapping, I think hopefully, we put a new spin on superheroes that makes you laugh, but also makes you connect, because I think these performances, as big as they are, or, as silly or fun, there is some humanity in there that we tried to find. And there is a real character arc, particularly for Victor Vance, not Victor Salvatore, but Nautilus, hopefully in the future we have more adventures. I mean, look, if people like the show enough and we get enough of a groundswell of support for it, we'd love to take it out of quarantine and do it right.
I feel like it's just as important with this that it comes with all these behind the scenes tags. I really hope that's a part of the show when you plan, when it has its release. I don't know if that.
Oh, we're out now. Yeah, I mean, it's available on Tubi, and those are up with it. So yeah, if you want to see kind of how we did it, and you don't get sick of Enrico and I's faces, then you can watch a behind the scenes. It kind of dives into how difficult but rewarding the whole process was.
Yeah, I can't praise the actors in this enough. I mean, just editing the project and looking at all of their raw footage and everything that they had to do this. I know it was incredibly difficult for them too. These are all trained actors who are all brilliant in their own ways, to have to literally be in a room by yourself, repeating a line over and over and then moving on to the next line. That's not an easy process, and that's not at all what we're accustomed to doing, even on a film set. So I think, you know, kudos to all of them for really like stepping up and making it really difficult for us to choose takes, quite frankly. You know,
do you have any teases for season 2 for anyone? Anything you want to tell?
Carl, you want to tease anything?
Well, it's hard because, like you said, there's a big cliffhanger, so stick around till the end. And let's just say that would have gigantic consequences for Paradigm's world. And going forward, you know, it'll be a challenge for him to, I think, have the same kind of public perception that he's used to. So that would be something to watch.
Yeah, the whole world gets flipped upside down, and I think that there's a lot that we're going to play with in season 2.
Anything you'd like the audience to know about your experience with this, your time with this? Anything?
Can I be the one to make it a little more serious right now?
Of course.
Do the woman
Please.
thing. I think it's incredible that we are showing that that therapy is accessible to anyone, including a superhero, and that while it is daunting and it is intimidating and it is super scary to be that vulnerable, like the first step is even just like doing it through a screen like this, and that's accessible to anyone, anywhere. And that part of it made me like, I don't know, that when watching it back, I'm like, man, we all just need to talk. We all just have things we need to say. And whether it's a silly superhero or somebody more grounded like Lydia, there's all this like accessibility to connect and be vulnerable. And I loved seeing that, especially because I think virtual therapy became such a thing during the pandemic. So I haven't seen that done. I haven't seen like people use that and show it in that way and promote like mental health in that way, and a silly but also grounded.
Yeah. And I think
scenario.
in the US, people can look up betterhelp.com and small sort of, I don't really like the word life hack, but that's technically what it is. If you talk to your insurance company and ask them for local providers, you can usually get a list of people. Agencies, they'll look up for you. So
totally.
Yeah, I appreciate that about this too. So thank you guys so much. I think that's about the time that I have, and so just thank you all so much for me being here and getting to watch your show. And I just hope for success. Hope to see at least an episode of season 2. And
Yes, us
you all
too.
have a wonderful rest of your circuit that you're doing, and take care.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much.
you.